had barely time to prepare today at all. By hook and by crook this morning I had to teach kites, and this afternoon I had to give my shiur, and then I had guests tonight, so whatever. Today it's a little bit skimpy. Apologize for that. But it is prepared. It is prepared. Okay? The Zion Amanal. What? We'll see. Okay.
You got everyone ready to pound.
Zion Amanal. All right? Yeah, at the top. You have a different print. Halacha Dalet. Halacha Dalet. Halacha Dalet in the middle. We're start. Do you want me to find it for you? Start. Give me a Gemara. I'll find it. Yeah, but trust me. We're on page 13. There's 4 lines from the top. Star shechosmo chosmo ba'arba edim. Do you have that?
All right. What do I know?
Star shechosmo ba'arba edim. No? Come, let me show you. Star shechosmo ba'arba edim. Okay. Shtar shchosma barbedim, a star which is signed by 4 witnesses. V'nimtzu shnayim are rishonim kreivim psulim, and the first 2 witnesses were found to be related or apostle. Kosher, the document is nevertheless kosher. V'tiskaim edus b'shtar, the document is sustained by the other 2 witnesses, which are subsequent, the 2 kosher ones which are further down. So, yes. That's a good question. By Edus Shebashtar, we don't necessarily say that. When you have a kat of Edim, which are actually interviewed and based in, you said together as one group, yes. But there's a whole long Reb Chaim who discusses why we don't say Nimsa Echel Karv Apostle on a star. But basically, we don't say that by a star. Even though we say Edim Achatumim Alashar Nasa Kmishanechre Edusam Bebeistin, nonetheless, we do not assume that they're considered to be all one kat. Rather, if we can isolate 2 of them which are kosher, then we accept their testimony by itself. That is true in the Bavli as well. We have that. They have this. They have a whole bunch of cases like that.
So why does it say Shnayim?
Well, it's a chiddush. Even if the first 2 are Karov Apostle.
It implies that they're like the group together,
right?
As opposed to Shnayim, any 2.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because the next line. You might be right. Maybe you have a diuk there, but look, I think it is because of the next line. Because it says, B'yasach keherchek hedus. Let it be like the edus is distant from the document. So I think the chiddush is that they're the last 2. So there's no kosher, it's like a hefsek, there's a mechitza between the proper edus and the document, which are the psulim. So how do you know that they signed on this document, right? They might have come, maybe the 2 witnesses on the document are the first 2. And these 2 came later on, just tacked on their names. So therefore, they're distant from the document. Yes?
I just remember the case it's a star by the Arev. The Arev is a case where there's a star that it is fucking just about the cool also about.
Maybe that's where there's a problem by the Edus in the star. There's a problem where you have a problem with the Edus in the star, or the Edim were kroivim to one person and not to the other person. In other words, Edim which are kroivim to a loiveh and not to an orev, or to an orev and not to a loiveh. You think about Marcus, the case of Marcus. So that's the case of Edim are kroivim. It's with the same set of 2 Edim on the document. It's only one set of 2 witnesses. They're krovim to somebody whom the document concerns. You understand the difference? There you have only 2 witnesses, and part of their testimony is batel. Here, you have 2 witnesses who are apostle, 2 witnesses who are kosher. Okay? So v'yasel keriyedus v'apostle, leis yochli. You can't say that. The Kamar Rabbi Yasa, v'shem Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rabbi Yasa say in the name of Rabbi Yirmiyah, Edim Psulim Einom Nasim Kirhechek Edus. When you have Edim Psulim, they're not considered to be distant because Shalobo El Achshiach Sher Shoget. The only reason why they come is to be machshir to get, meaning precisely for this reason, you can't leave empty spaces on a document. You can never leave empty spaces because then it's shaykh that it was forged. That's why when we write a line on a get or a ksuva, we finish the line Hakol Shar V'Kayam, and that line is complete. You never leave any space, right? What?
You can't leave any paper left?
No. Not above the witnesses have to sign the line immediately below the document, because otherwise who knows how much was forged there. So therefore here, you have this case also in Baba Basra a lot about getting makushar, and when you have a gittin with many signatures, every fold, when you fold the document, and you sign every fold, so you don't have to have more than 2 kosher witnesses. Sorry, I spilled ink on myself today. So you don't have to have, I got rid of that pen. I had this open roller ball.
Oh, yeah,
It's
right,
ruined
right,
2
right.
shirts of mine this week. An open roller ball, and you leave it open, it's stuck. Right. So, but I got rid of the roller ball. Now I only have a closed fountain pen and a ball pen. So forget it. No more roller balls for me. So in any event, so the bottom line is that you need to have you can have a whole bunch of edim or kroivim and psulim, but you must fill up the folds, and here too you must fill up the document. So therefore, that's not. You need to have only 2 edim kshirim, and they can be distant as long as there's no space, open space between them and the document. Actually, open space again is a psul. It's a whole discussion about Basra, how much open space is big deshesh on the topic, but not for now. Says the Gemara, kutim mishum mahem psulim. Now, getting back to the concept of kutim. Now, this is actually pretty fascinating Gemara because Yerushalmi has a much more liberal approach to kutim than the Bavli does. Kutim mishum, normally, the Bavli, standard Bavli is once they thought they were valid gerim, and then afterwards they found out that they were only Megayer because they're afraid of the lions, and it was only, and in secret they kept on worshipping their Avodah Zarah, so therefore they reverted to the status of complete and total goyim, right? The Yerushalmi is much more liberal on that. The Yerushalmi says that kutim mishumayim psulim armai b'elchem mishum gere arayas. They were gerim because of the lions. So far it's like the Bavli, but the kasha, it's difficult. Ilu mishu lo nizkar l'shem shamayim. If somebody was not megar for the sake of heaven, v'chozim nizkar l'shem shamayim, and then he goes afterwards, he turns around and is megar l'shem shamayim, right? Shemayim mekabel, so what, he can't come on the rebound the second time and come and be megayer. So here the question, you never find this question in the Bavli. The assumption is that yes, it's true, originally their kavanas were not proper, but later on they were megayer l'shem shamayim. So why don't you count their second gerus, which was for the sake of heaven? Okay? They were megayer a second time. So the Yerushalmi asked. Or I shouldn't say they were megayer for sure. Let's accept them a second time. Because obviously they want to keep Torah mitzvahs. Therefore, why don't we accept them? So says the Gemara, I'll tell you why we don't accept them. Right? Rabbi Yom Sher Lezer said the reason why we don't accept them is because Lamaisa, fascinating svara, Mishum Nachriv Eved Haba Bas Yisrael. So when you have a goy or a slave who has relations with a regular Jewish girl, Havlad Mamzer, the kid is a Mamzer. Now, therefore, the way they looked at it, they said, from the first conversion, not all the Kutim were gay Arayas, not all of them were converted because of lions. Some of them were converted legitimately, right? So some of them are goyim and some of them are Jews. And this Gemara is going like the Shita, which holds that if you have a goy who has relations with a Jewish woman and they have a kid, the kid is a mamzer. We don't pass them that way, but there is a prevalent Shita in Shas. So therefore they weren't megayer them a second time around because they were afraid that they'll accept then mamzerim. That if they were all be goyim, it wouldn't be a problem. But this way, there's some of them who are not goyim, who are mamzerim, and then that would mess up the yichus and Klal Yisrael. There's a modern day issue. They had the same issue with the Bnei Israel, which came from India, and the Ethiopian Jews, because again, if you hold that they're Jewish, and they messed up over the years in marital law, so then some of the kids will be mamzerim. It's much better off if you assume that they're goyim, because by goyim, they convert. Okay, they can't marry Kohanim, but at least they're not posel l'kol. We don't know. It's misafik. Perhaps they're messed up, right? Because they didn't have proper marriage and divorce ceremonies. So says the Gemara, says more still. Varm Rabbi Akiva, then Rabbi Akiva say, gay rate said they came, that the Kutim were valid gayrim. So if that's the case, it means that none of them were goyim. They all were originally gay rate said. To the best of my recollection, there's no such shita in the Bavli that attributed to Rabbi Akiva that they're originally gay rate tzedek. But I might be wrong. Rabbi Akiva says originally gay rate tzedek, and since originally gay rate tzedek, so there's no problem. So accept them the second time around. There's no mamzeris issue. Says more, there still is mamzer shishu. Al shem shehem miyabim misarusos, because they do yibum to women whose husbands died out of betrothal. Umotzinas and asus. But if a woman died, don't ask me why they had such a minhag, but they had a minhag that if a woman dies after betrothal, after erusin not nisuin, they do yibum. But if a woman died after nisuin, the kutim had a minhag, they don't do yibum in such a case. So they're matir vama lashuk. What? I'm sorry, if a man died, if her husband died, that's what I meant to say, right? So, says Gemara, wait a minute. So what? For Rabbanan Armin, ein mamzer v'yavama. We paskin, if a yavama is mizaneh, since the prohibition is only a lav. So the kid is not a mamzer, so let's accept it. Now the truth is, the Yerushalmi's question is a little bit difficult, because Yerushalmi just quoted Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva holds, Yesh mamzer m'chayav v'lavik. But I seem to, again, I didn't look this up, but I seem to have a dim recollection. If Rabbi Akiva agrees by Yavama, perhaps. Do you recall such a thing, or am I making it up? I'm making it up. Okay, so therefore the question stands. I don't know why the Gemara is asking this question according to Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva could say, yes, it's true that Geri Tzedek, but they're mamzerus issues, so therefore we separate them for the rest of Am Yisrael. So it says Gemara, you know what? The truth is that that the issue is not mamzerus. There is no issue of mamzerus, and the truth is they should be full Jews. So why Taka don't we accept Gittin, which are signed by Gittin, by Kutim? So I'll shame Tanakama doesn't accept it. Why does Tanakama accept a get which has two Kutim on it? Because I'll shame she'ain bekiin b'dikduke Gittin, because they don't know the precise halachos of Gittin. Now, if you have 1/8 Kuti, Tanakama said it's okay. Because the Yisrael then testifies that the Kuti who signed with him signed Kedin, right? That's what we left off with yesterday. But if you have 2 Eidim Kutim, you can't trust them because they don't know how to write Gittin properly. Okay? Now, Haran Gamliel Machshir B'Kitein, but Rabbi Gamliel is Machshir. They're Gittin all together, right? So obviously Rabbi Gamliel doesn't hold that way. Rabbi Gamliel must hold that they're getting it proper because they are Jewish and because they know Dikduke Gittin, and therefore even to get signed with 2 Kutim, he had said in the Mishnah sufficient. Now it's a little bit out of order. Now we're going back to the issue of the Kutim Zichus in and of itself.
If Rabbi Akiva says they're Geri Tzedek,
Yeah.
then if they're Geri Tzedek, wouldn't they know the
No. Do you know the halachos of Gittin? No, I don't either. I'm a born Jew, but I don't know the halachos of Gittin. The fact that you're a born Jew doesn't mean you necessarily know the halachos, right? So therefore it's not necessarily right. So it says more around Gamliel. So Rabbi Yaakov said, "Al shem shisarvem kani bamos." This is going back a little bit. In other words, what's the chashash? Why we didn't accept kutim? Why don't we accept kutim? Because they said they hired kohanim for their altars, which were obviously not kosher kohanim, which were I assume goyim. So it says, now here quotes a pasuk, but that's a pasuk from Melachim Alf. It's the wrong pasuk. It's a pasuk by Yerava. So instead the Shai Torah brings down the other pasuk, which is a proper pasuk, which is by Kutim, which says, "Vayasu lem miksosom kohani bamos." It's almost the same pasuk, but the idea is that Rabbi Ila mina kaitim shem ba'am. Seems like they actually were not goyim. Seems like they were Jews, but the kohanim themselves were mamzerish or kohanim, or kohanim of questionable lineage. And since those became the kohanim, so therefore they had all sorts of questionable lineage, and that's why we didn't accept them back into Klal Yisrael. Okay? Again, because the questionable lineage of those kohanim which were involved with them. So that would actually answer the Gemara's question from before. The Gemara had a question from before was, yibum, or psul yibum doesn't create mamzerus. Yeah, it's true they got their psul from elsewhere. What was their psul from elsewhere? That the kohanim which got mixed them were questionable kohanim. Okay, that's the end of the sugya about kutim. As I said, the Yerushalmi actually seems to that even the maskana kutim are really mostly Jewish. It's just that the question of mamzerus about them, not that they're actually goyim, which is very different than the Bavlis. I don't know if that'll be borne out throughout the Yerushalmi, but that's what it seems here.
Do the Kutim still exist?
Absolutely, they still exist now.
They were so liberal. They had to live with them. They were living in Eretz Yisrael. In Babel, there were no Kutim.
Okay, maybe. I don't know if that's why, but okay.
His family wasn't living with them.
Yeah, there could be they didn't have close context, so therefore they had a different attitude. And all these things are possible. Okay, now starts a new issue. But it's still continuous, but it's kind of new. It's off on a tangent. It said in our Mishnah that if you have a shtar which comes up in non-Jewish courts, use the document is good. Now, of course, not a get, but any document which is a Choshen Mishpat type document, which is signed and sealed in a non-Jewish court of justice, we assume it's a reasonable proof evidence. Okay, so why is that? Rabbi Yaakov Kol Yotzei Bar Kiyim. When there's a document which comes out in the Erkoyim, which are their courts, so then there are if it was not proper, so people would know. In other words, there's publicity as to what the good documents are and what the bad documents are. Now, last the Gemara, getting back to the kutim issue. Me'ata afilu shneim kutim. Now here, it's best, I'm going to throw in a gears of the Shai Torah Eretz Yisrael. And the Korban Eidah really changes gears too, but the truth is they don't change it precisely the way I'm going to change it now. But the idea is the same. So they throw in here the line, Afilu Gittin noshim shichrei avodim. Why don't we trust kutim by gittim and by gittin for women and the releases for slaves? If in a court there's a call to how the document was written, whether it's written properly or not, the kutim also have courts. And we just got through saying that they're Jewish. So let's trust a get written in a Kutisha court, right? Because it's got the call, and it has also proper edim, right? Because they are Jewish. So why don't we trust their getting? So again, the Gemara says the same answer you've said before. Yes, we trust them that they wrote it by their standards properly, but by their standards, not by our standards. They don't know to write it properly, right? Things like we've darshan from a pasuk because of law lishma, right? That's written for the purpose of the woman. They don't darshan. They don't have Torah Sheba'al Peh kutim. So therefore, it's possible that's just one example of a diktuk and gittin which they might not be familiar with, right? So it says Marvar Rabbi Shimon Machshir B'Gitei, and I don't understand how does Rabbi Shimon say their gittin are kosher? Rabbi Shimon said in our Mishnah that a get of a kuti, I think it was actually Rabbi Gamliel. It was Rabbi Gamliel. Probably it has to be corrected, or I didn't correct it, but it's I think it's Rabbi it should be Rabbi Gamliel. Anyway, whoever it was, sometime. Rabbi Shimon Machshir B'Gitei. So how does he machshir if they're not bucky? So interesting, distinct answer here. Rabbi Shimon Mizir said, "Ask Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Lezer." Rabbi Shimon goes like Rabbi Lezer. Now it's the first time Rabbi Lezer appears in the Yerushalmi. Rabbi Lezer is famous in the Bavli for holding Eidei Mesira Karti. That the document, the witnesses on the get are not the witnesses of the signature, but the witnesses of the delivery, right? That's Rabbi Lezer's famous shita. So Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer kosher. Even though Rabbi Lezer holds, just like Rabbi Lezer holds, you don't need witnesses on the get. The witnesses are the witnesses which view the Mesira, the giving of the get from the husband to the wife. So too, can Rabbi Shimon Omer Afal Pi She'ein Eidim a law of Eidim kosher. Even though they're kuti witnesses on it, we just ignore the kuti witnesses. Who become our witnesses? Not the Eidei Chasima, but rather the Eidei Mesira. Now it's a little bit difficult because but what about the fact that it might not have been written Lishma? So I guess we rely on the Eidei Mesira to have clarified before they saw the document given over that the document was written by the Kutim Lishma. So it's not that we rely on the Kuti witnesses. We can't because they don't know Dikduk Gittin. We rely on two Eidei Mesira who then vouch for us that the get was written properly with the proper Dikdukim. Okay? Says the Gemara, Me'atawa, if that's the case, we're not relying on the Eidim who are signed in it. Who cares if it was done in a court or not? Me'ata fil nasa behedyot. Right? Well, why do you have to have it done in a court? Let it be done just by commoners. Have a tzurka, so you must come on. That which Rabbi Yaakov said, Kol Yotzei Bar Koyim, that there's a kol which goes out in the Bati Din. Now, it seems here, this is kind of a non sequitur. What do you mean kol? Why do we need the kol for? So it seems to me, this is just my hunch, and it's not clear to me exactly how the Meforshim were, or rather I should say wasn't satisfied with what they said, but it seems to me that we're going back to when we asked the question, me'ata afilu nase behedyot. It's not going back on Gittin. It's asking on regular documents, shitrei mamon. It said in our mission we only trust shitrei mamon rendered in a non-Jewish court, not shitrei mamon rendered by two non-Jews who are commoners. Why? If anyway our mission is going like the opinion of the Eidim Masira Karti, the Eidim Masira, so who cares where it was written, right? Let's just have it written by two commoners.
Well, if it wasn't in a court, maybe they cheated.
What do you mean they cheated? But the Eidim Masira will clarify. The Eidim Masira are Jews. So we'll clarify with the Eidim Masira whether they cheated or not. They'll figure it out. They'll find out. They'll make an investigation before they witness the Masira. So that the Gemara says, Rabbi Yaakov says, Kol Yetzer Berkaim. What he means to say, again, this is where I think the pshat is, the Eidim Masira, when it comes out of a non-Jewish court, we even rely on non-Jewish Eidim Masira. In other words, we're not talking about a get here, right? You don't need Jewish witnesses necessarily. You need to have evidence. You don't need Eidei Kiyum, Eidim, to make the validate the get. You need Eidim to make sure that this evidence is legitimate evidence. So that would work by even by Eidim Masira who are non-Jews, as long as it was certified by a non-Jewish court.
I think the Korban Eidim implies that.
He does imply it?
He doesn't say it explicitly, but I think it only implies.
Okay, it could be that it's, could be I was inspired by Korban Eidim, I don't remember. Anyway, now we have a Maisa like this, in fact. Shtar Yotze Beit Shan, there was a star which came out of Beit Shan. And Beit Shan was a non-Jewish city in the old days. It was not part of Eretz Yisrael in the time of second Beis HaMikdash. Vis-a-vis Shemitah, and I think that's true of Manazeh as well. That's not considered to be part of Eretz Yisrael vis-a-vis Shemitah. And it was inhabited by Romans. So the star came out of Beit Shan. You Eidav Eidei Goyim, and the witnesses were Eidei Goyim, not just Jews who signed with Goyish names, they were Mamish Goyim. Rabbi Yossi Mei Spalgon, Rabbi Yochanan Mesheri Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan said that Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish had a machlokas. Chadamar Pasul, one said the document is Pasul. Chadamar Kosher, one said the document is kosher. Rabbi Avo Mefaresh, who said what? Rabbi Avo Mefaresh, Rabbi Avo explained Rabbi Yochanan Mar Pasul. Rabbi Yochanan said the document was Pasul. Reish Lakish Amar Kosher. Rabbi Reish Lakish said the document is kosher. Ma time of the Reish Lakish. Why did Reish Lakish say it's kosher? In order not to cause Jews any loss. Says, what do you mean not to cause Jews loss? I know the thing in the bottom line, but the Gemara asks, wait a minute. The document obviously concerns litigation between two Jews. No matter what, one Jew's going to lose. So what do you mean Shlo Lahafsid Mammon Yisrael? Of course, some Jew's going to lose. If you validate the document, Reuven's going to lose. If you don't validate the document, Shimon's going to lose. Some Jews going to lose. So therefore, what do you mean? It can't be Shlo Hafsid Mammon Yisrael, right? Or Pilu delays Mafsid Ladain. If you don't cause this guy to lose, Mafsid Ladain, the other guy's going to lose. So it says, Barry, I heard a honk. Rabbi said, El Kidei Shelo Lino Sadelis. It's in order not to lock the door, Lifnei Bnei Adam in front of people. The moral is a person's going to look to borrow money in a city where there are no Jews to sign documents, and he won't be able to borrow money because people will say, I can't, my later base is not going to accept our document. So therefore, it's a big chiddush, we allow non-Jewish witnesses in order to allow normal commerce between Jews, even cities which are primarily non-Jewish. So it comes out of tremendous chiddush, but it comes out of chiddush that we rely on Eidei Akum in order to be able to conduct normal commerce. And I want to point out the Abu Yerushalmi here has a long discussion about a very important one. The Chayr Rabbi Yochanan who passes this document, he's arguing our Mishnah. Because our Mishnah said the star which comes out in their kosher goyim is a valid document, right? So what's Rabbi Yochanan? How can Rabbi Yochanan say no? Our Mishnah sustains Reish Lakish. Our Mishnah says that this document is kosher, right? Even the Eidim are goyim. This is our Mishnah. So what is this? So the Korban Eidim and Shura Korban asks that question. So Abu Yerushalmi has a long discussion of this, and he says that no, it could be our Mishnah is only talking about documents of sales. Sales, titles are valid when they come out of non-Jewish courts. But loans, bills on documents of loan are not necessarily valid. Sales documents are valid, but not necessarily loans. So Rabbi Yochanan Shlakish is Chiddush, which is, Shloli Naldelis Lifnei Lovin, right, is that even on the bills of loan it's legitimate. And on that, Rabbi Yochanan argues, he says, no, Shitrei Akna, things have to do with sales, that I accept because that the Mishnah says. But Shitrei Avah not, and Lamaisa, a lot of the places communities down here do paskin that you don't rely on Eidei Akum except by Shitrei Akna, not by Shitrei Avah. Okay? Only by sales, not by loans. I guess because sales, it's more real to the guy, but by loans, we don't accept their word for it. Okay? Which would be like in line with Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Halachai. If you say, give this get to my wife and this release to my slave, if he wants to renege before they're given over, he can renege. Rabbi Meir. The Chachamim say you can only renege by Gittin Noshim, but not by releases of slaves. Why? A person gets a schus, something which is advantageous to him, even if he's not present to acquire it, meaning through a third party. Which if I would say to you here, be mzoicha in this pen for somebody who's not here, let's say Ploni Amoni, right? So when you take this pen, it already belongs to Ploni Amoni. I can't renege. It's not true about a get, right? If I gave a get and said be zoicha for my wife, it wouldn't be work. But by a pen and by a shiur for an eved, it does work, right? Because it's a schus for the eved to go free. So therefore, you act on behalf of the eved or on behalf of the individual to whom I'm being makna the pen, and they're kind of that pen or that eved, the kind of the pen or the eved gets his release. So that's zachin lam shlo afanav. I can be mezakia. I can bestow upon somebody something which is a benefit for him, even if he's not present through a third party. And however, to do something which is detrimental to him, he needs to be present, and a get is detrimental to a woman. Why is a get detrimental to a woman? Because she loses her support, and she also loses, if she's a kohen, she becomes apostle for kohanim. So it's detrimental to a woman to get divorced. Okay? So then the Gemara is going to actually discuss if that's in fact the reason. We'll see that when we get there. And the Gemara says, and the Gemara explains why it's a schus for eved to go free and not a schus for a woman to leave her marriage, because shim yirtzu shlo zunas avdo rashai. An eved has no advantage from being a slave. An eved can't demand mizonos. He can't demand support as far his master can starve him. Whereas opposed to he doesn't want to support his slave or his wife, he's not allowed. He can't opt out of that. And furthermore, no. So I'm sorry. So Meir asked back. So he said to them, "1 second, the eved loses his truma. So that should be a choiv for the eved, that he loses his truma if he's the slave of a kohen, of course. Then he loses right to eat truma. So that should be a reason why there shouldn't be a schutz for him, right? So it says the Gemara, just like Shem Shubais his Ishtar, just like he bows his wife. Amrulo, so they said back to him, no, Mibnei Shu Kinyono, it's because he's owned. And the Gemara is going to explain what exactly that means. Okay? What exactly that distinction is meant to connote. Homer, somebody says, Ten get Elishi. Somebody says, give this get to my wife. Ushtar Shichur Zel Avdi, and this bill of release to my slave. Umeis, and he died. Lo Yinosdu Lacharmi, so that they cannot be given after death. Only during the lifetime of the person who's bestowing the freedom. Tnu Monalish Ploni Umeis, however, he said give $100 to so and so, and that guy died. So that's similar, of course, to, or that is actually a similar to a case of Shchimera, right? Actually, it's not similar. It is a case of Shchimera, right? Because he says, the Shchimera says give, that's as if he made the kinyan.
So why can't he give a get?
It's not as close for the wife to get a get.
that she's a widow.
She'd rather be oh no, well not talking about somebody's dying. In which case of the guy's dying? Okay, the Gemara is going to ask a similar question. It says, all over Shas you say Tain is Kaholich. Now what does Tain Kaholich mean? It means that if I said you give this pen to Pliny Amoini, that means you're not being Zoicha for him. It should mean you're not that you're being Zoicha for him, but rather that I'm making you a Shliach to take it to him. But here we're saying when it says Tain Shtar Shiur Zel Avdi, I'm really saying be Zoche for it, not just give it to him as an emissary, but acquire it on his behalf. Why the distinction here all of a sudden, right? No, but I'm appointing him the shliach. He's not appointing the shliach. The Evet's not around to appoint him a shliach. He's my shliach. Why he should be my shliach?
He's your shliach.
So how can he be makayna for somebody else if he's my shliach? How can he make a kingdom for somebody else if he's my shliach? He's the makna shliach, not the koine shliach. So that's why I need the principle of schia, that zachin lam shalafanav. Rabbi said the principle of zachin lam shalafanav teaches us that even without the mechanism of shlichus, you can become a shliach for another person for something which is beneficial for him. Okay? But that's only if I, in turn, acquiesce to that. Whereas if I say, yes, I'm recognizing you as being zoich on his behalf. Because after all, he's not here to appoint you. You're self-appointed. I have to agree to that transaction, right? So therefore, in this case, when he says tain, it should be like holach, there's no agreement. So there's more change of gears from our Mishnah. Kini masnisa. This is a way to read our Mishnah. Zakei get zelishti. Acquire this get from my wife. Zakei shtar is a shiur zel avdi. Acquire the shtar from my slave. Says more, and that's obviously in the Mishnah, Lashon Masisa Amrake. The language of the Mishnah indicates this to be true because it says the fish is Zachin Lo Adam Shlova Fanav. A merit is acquired by an individual even if he's not around. Vein Chavin Lo Adam Shlova Fanav. You cannot do something which is harmful to an individual unless he's around to acquiesce. Okay, now getting back to our Mishnah, Reimer Chayvu Bein Lezel Bein Lezeh. It's detrimental both to the slave and to the woman. Well, in the Bavli it says, the Avda Befkera Nichole, an Eved wants to become an Eved and stay an Eved because it's an easy and free life, as opposed to being Jew. There are plenty of mitzvahs which are big pain. Okay, so in any event, so it says it's a chayva to both. So Rabbanan means chusul, it's an absolute merit to be a Jew. V'chayv l'isha, it's detrimental to be divorced. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Chia bar Abba said Rabbi Yochanan. I'm sorry, Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan boy. Chia bar Abba said Rabbi Yochanan asked the question. Hagatzimcha. Let's analyze this a minute. Let's literally imagine. She'avdu shel katzin. He was the slave of a nobleman. Right, a katzin in Hebrew means an officer, but same idea. In that case, even Rabbanan should agree that's detrimental for the Eved to be free. Why? Because it's better to be the slave of a nobleman. Obviously, it's not modern sentiment, but in the old days, better to be a slave to a nobleman than a free, poor person, poor free commoner.
This is an unusual question because typically when you look at Chus and Chol, you look at the categories. You don't look at the individual per se. You look at, generally speaking, the woman, the Eved. You don't look at as here we're looking.
Right. If I recall correctly, this is not in the Bavli, this discussion. But actually, this discussion will be very, very fundamental in the Yerushalmi, as you'll see in a minute. The Chevraya said, Rabbi Yochanan asked the following question. What if she was the wife of a person who has leprosy? In that case, it's a schus for the woman to go free, right? So actually, in that case, we should say zachin l'adam shelo v'fanav, even by a wife. So it says, you know what? Let's chuck out the whole lumdus of the Mishnah. It's an amazing thing the Gemara is about to do. The Gemara says, you know what the real lumdus in our Mishnah should be? Leis l'cha ela kada. This is the real rationale. Ilu. Now the two words in this Mishnah, the Mashbiach, two words in this line, the Mashbiach changes, and he gives a beautiful pshat based on the words. Everybody else has difficulties with this line here. He changes it, Leisach el kada ilu ha-meshachrer savto. If somebody not hamoicher, not somebody who sells, but somebody releases a slave, Shalomi died 2010. Shema enam meshuchor, is he not freed? Do you need your Evet's intent to get free? No, right? However, v'amagarish is ishto shalomi daita. If you divorce your wife, now bear in mind, it's between das and rotzo. You don't need a woman's will to get divorced. You can divorce her against the will, but she has to know that she's getting divorced. If you can't deliver her something which a document and say, here's I don't remember exactly what languages do work and what languages don't work. But if you give your wife a get and you say, here's your bill of sale, and she doesn't think it's a get, so then it's not divorced. Not divorced. She has to be aware that she's being divorced. She doesn't have to acquiesce to the divorce, but she has to be aware of that. Well, if she doesn't take it also, she's not divorced. So she has to know she's getting a divorce, and she has to agree to accept it. What?
She won't accept.
Right. I mean, you could shove it into her hand, but you're right. If she makes a clenched fist and you go like this, and she doesn't take it, she's not divorced. Right? So she needs not again. We can compel her. We can open her fist and then put it on the get and clasp it again. But she has to have das if she is getting a get. Right? So Shlomi Daito Shema Gureshisi, do you think she's divorced? She's not divorced, right? So therefore, it's very pashut now.
She's going to find out that
doesn't matter. Well, that's what we'll discuss later in the Masechta. What if she's going to find out afterwards? Okay, but that's right now, the one is not concerned with that. The bottom line here in our Mishnah is now it's a very beautiful distinction, and it's not based at all on Zachin or not Zachin. Right? Well, it is indirectly, but by an Evet, you don't need his das to be Meshachar him. So you give it to third party, say, here, you be Zachin for the Evet. I'm the master. I'm in charge also of releasing him. I don't need his das to release him, so therefore you can be Zachin for him. But by a get, you need the das of the woman to accept the get. To appoint somebody as her designated representative to accept the get, that doesn't work, whether it's a schus for her or not, even if her husband is the biggest louse shmendrik in the world. But nevertheless, Lamaisa, she needs to know she's getting a get in order for the get to work. And in this case, she doesn't know she's getting a get. So therefore, it's not a valid get. Until she knows and appoints the shliach. Okay? It's a beautiful distinction. I don't remember if this is in the Bavli or not, but it's a beautiful distinction what the Yerushalmi has. Okay? Says the Gemara, I'm Rabbi Abi, now, Mivneshu Kinyon, I'm sorry. This is actually going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that Eved, it's not a choiva, the fact that he loses his truma, because it's just because he was an acquisition. So what does that mean? Rabbi Yavin said, Kinyono. The truth is, by a get, when you give your wife a get, the get itself passes her from truma. The get itself passes her lakuna, makes her pasul of truma. By an Eved, it's only a byproduct. What? Always. But no, but she's a Bas Yisrael. Yeah, she can't marry a Kohen again. That's also so the chayva. Whatever chayva comes, whether it's that she can't do truma because she was married to a Kohen, now she's not, or whether she can't marry a Kohen because she was because she's divorced, that the get itself creates that deficit. But by the shtar given to an Eved to release him, the shtar doesn't create the deficit. Right. It's the fact that he's no longer the kinyan. So it's only a byproduct. So it's interesting, the Yerushalmi's distinction, even in the Mishnah's own terms, the schus or chayva are dependent on what the deed itself does, the transaction itself does, not on any byproduct or fringe effect of the transaction. So therefore, a get itself passes a woman from truma, or a get itself passes her to marry a Kohen. But by an Eved, it's not the release which passes him from being an Eved, it's the fact that he's no longer owned by a Kohen. So that's not considered to be a chayva, right? Now, if somebody says, Tavi, my slave, Asisi ben Choyrin. Now, that's interesting language, or the Mepharshim do pick up on a little bit. Tavi was the Eved of Rav Gamliel, and he was a very kosher Eved, right? And Rav Gamliel was constantly looking for ways to release him, because he was such a kosher guy. Ultimately, he found a way, I forget what it was exactly, but a guy says, I want to release my slave. And the Mashbiach brings down that every good slave is called Tavi. And therefore, why is the Mishnah, in the Yerushalmi? Every time it's a good slave, it's called Tavi, because Ran Gamliel's slave was the big tzaddik. So therefore, what the Gemara is trying to say is that normally it's us to release a slave, right? Because it says, Olam Ben Tavodu, you got to make them work. But here, since he was a good slave, so Mistama, there's a legitimate reason to release him. Okay, that's what the Gemara is stressing. You're releasing your good slave. So Mistama, you have a good reason. One of the reasons given is if you need him for a minyan, right, he's the 10th man, so you can release him for that purpose. But in any event, so you say, I want to make Tavi my slave Ben Chorin. That's the statement you make. Even though it says Osisi, it doesn't mean you actually made him. It's not a question of Nemanis, but rather it's a question of announcing, right? So Osani Ben Oso Ben Chorin, I'd say this language, I'm making him Ben Chorin, Hareza Ben Chorin, or language of he is a Ben Chorin, Zocha. If you announce this to somebody, this is authorization for that person to go and write a document of release. And he has the right to do so immediately. Okay? It seems you can't renege on that. Rabbi Yehuda said, no, not quite. Ubilvad b'shtar. That's it's only if you wrote that in a document and gave it to somebody, because then it's binding. Because that document, in essence, becomes the release. I'm not sure if it actually becomes release or it binds you to release him. And the fact I think it's more the latter. It's not the release. But that means you giving this document over, it says, I want to release my slave to a third party. Now that party has acquired the right to a shiur from you, and now you are compelled to release your slave as a result. Okay? That, holding on to the shtar. Okay? Yasa ben Chorin, what if you said this language? Tavi, my slave, should be made of Ben Chorin. Not say, I want to make him, or I will make him, but it's proper to make him Ben Chorin. Document I'm released to my slave, umeis. And the person dies. Rabbi Omer lo zacha. Rabbi says he was not zoche. The Chachamim means zacha. And Chachamim says he was zoche. Okay, so again, he said, give this document release to my slave, and then the master dies. So Rabbi says, Rabbi says, flow zacha. Right, the shtar didn't reach anybody's hands. Chachamim said it was zoche. So even Chachamim that says zoche, it's not really that he was zoche, but rather koifines haYarshim l'kayim divrei hameis. We ethically require the Yarshim to fulfill their dead father's words, because actually, if you just said snu shtar and the shtar hasn't been handed over yet, so there's no valid legal, requirement to make it do it, but it's the proper ethical thing to do.
The Evan would go to the Yerushalmi anyways.
Right, so the Yerushalmi have to release him. That's what we're saying. We compel that's what it says. We compel the Yerushalmi to fulfill the words of their dead father. Amr said, Bistam Chaluki. There's only machlokes where he said it generically. And what does that mean? Let's explain. Manakim, what are you talking about? If he said, release him, it was a command. So after Rabbi Modeh, Rabbi concedes that by Shchib Merav, he says, release him, that's sufficient, he must be released. If he says, however, should not release him, but rather write him a document and give him the document, af Rabbanim Modim. Rabbanim also agree that it doesn't work after death, because ain't shtar lachar misa. He made a contingent on a shtar, and there's no shtar after death. Right? So then you don't even compel the heirs to write the release. When is there machlokes? Elakenuka, and machlokes bo'emer tznu, where he said generically tznu. He didn't say kisvu tznu. He didn't say shichuru. He didn't say write and give. He didn't say release, but he said just give. Rabbi Omer tznu koimer kisvu tznu. Somebody says give. It's as if he says write and give, and that only would take effect after death, and there's no release after death. Rabbanan say tznu koimer shacharu. When you say give, it's as if you say release, and that does not require a document, and therefore it works even, he didn't make a digital document, and therefore it works during his lifetime. Okay? Now, Lamaisa, an Eved does need to get shiur. Let's make that clear. You always need a document. But there's a concept which I don't remember, it's later I don't know if it's in the Yerushalmi, but it is in the Bavli, in Kiddushin, I don't remember it's getting to, somebody who's released except he's mu'ukav get shiur. where the get shiur just becomes a formality. The release has actually occurred choshen mishpat wise, as just Evan Ezer wise, to allow him to marry a Jewish woman. So you need to get shiur just as icing on the cake. So that would actually be parallel in this case. If you said shachru, that in of itself would be the release, and he would just be a mu'ukav get shiur. If you said kisvu tnu, then you only intended to release via the document. The question is, when it said tnu, is that like shiur? In other words, the primary release is now the get document just becomes a formality, or is the primary release the document itself, and that would be the machlokas. Okay. Similarly, now, and actually it's not similarly, it is a related case, but it is actually a very fascinating case, and I do not remember this from the Bavli at all. And I'm pretty convinced it's not there. Sometimes I say that's hyperbole, but in this case, I really believe it's true. Somebody says, I say I want to give all of my property to so and so, to Aaron, and Harehu Kohen, and Aaron is a Kohen. Vayusham avodim, and they're slaves in the property. So once they belong to Aaron, they can eat truma, right? Even though Aaron says it's impossible to accept them, they can eat truma. Aaron said it's impossible, but it's still the avodim can eat truma. It's an amazing concept. What? Impossible means he refuses to accept the gift. So why? Rav Shin Gamliel says, no. Once he said it's impossible, the heirs of the dying guy, they got them. And the dying guy who gave this as a gift to Aaron, he was not a Kohen, so therefore they can't eat truma. So what are we talking about? What's the machlok? So again, Rabbi Zir qualifies for us. Rabbi Zir b'stam chalukin. They argue when it's a generic and unclear case. Manan, what are we talking about? If originally Aaron accepted the deal, it should be Rabban Shimon Gamliel, not Ran Gamliel. Rabban Shimon Gamliel moided that in that case the avodim can eat truma. They belong now to the Aaron Kohen. If, however, the Aaron refused it from the get go, af Rabbanan modu, even Rabbanan agree. El Kenachem, what are you talking about? Bistam. Bistam means, now what does Bistam mean here? He was silent to begin with, and then when we spoke, he said EFC. But there was a moment of, I don't know, one moment, but there was some time which he was silent. So now he wants to say, when I said EFC, it's retroactive. Rabbi Omer says, Leitz Barnosh Omer EFC, a person does not say EFC, that except except that he originally said, in his mind, because he never said anything verbally, acquiesced, and now he's saying, you know what, it's impossible. The language of it's impossible means that at first he thought yes, and then he considered it and he rejected it. It's an amazing concept. That's what the language EFC means. If he said, I guess if he would have been silent and then said no, instead of EFC, it's impossible, it would have had a different connotation. But that's the language of EFC. It means he's considered, he originally wanted to do it, and then he said, can't do it because it's impossible. That's how Rebbe learns it. Rabbi Shin Gamliel Omer, once he says it's impossible, so that goes back to the beginning. And it indicates what his intent was to begin with, and therefore the avodim cannot eat truma. Okay, now, so similar cases still. Somebody says, give so-and-so $100 that I owe him. Take this $100 to so-and-so, because I owed him, he gave it to me for safekeeping. Once I give it to the guy who's zocher, the agent, he can't give it back to me. Once he took it under these conditions, he can't give it back. It's too late. Okay? He already accepted the shlichus on behalf of the individual for whom he's getting it, and therefore he can't renege. It's a shlichus. It's a shlichus. Yeah. It's a shlichus, because here it's not necessarily mizakir, because after all, we're talking about, let's say, a pikadon, right? Pikadon already belongs to that individual. But the point there, $100 pikadon it already belongs the whole time to the guy to whom he's sending it back now. So this guy is not necessarily acquiring it for him, but he's the shliach. But he can't renege on the shlichus. There's a concept of being zoich in a shliach, right? Here, the guy who's not present, Pliny Amoini, to I'm returning this object via this person who agreed to be a shliach, he was already zoich not just in the object, but in the shlichus itself. And therefore the shliach can't renege on the deal. Okay, it's a big chiddush, but that's what it says here. Not making it up. And again, I don't think this is in the Bavli. This I don't think, I'm not sure. But anyway, I don't think so. And the shliach, now he might be a loser, but he's chayv and achrayis, he's responsible for the object, until that guy gets back that which he's supposed to get back. Rabbi Levi said, hamatona, even a gift, k'choyv, is like a loan in this case. If I said, Tain monazel ploni, if I said, give this as a gift to Ploni Amoini. Hoylach monazel ploni, give this bring this to monazel ploni, and it's a gift. Tain shtar zeh matzon ploni, give this document which certifies gift to Ploni. Hoylach shtar zeh matzon ploni, bring it to him. Imrotzel hafsu lo yachzir, the shliach cannot give it back. The Ploni is zeich in the shlichus. He is zeich that this shliach works on his behalf, and that shliach cannot renege on the deal until he completes the shlichus he undertook about himself.
Meaning the owner of the thing is mizaka the shliach?
The owner of the thing, the owner of the thing is mizaka shlichus. But it takes two to tango in this case. The shaliach has to agree to that. Now he's become the shaliach without, it's not the owner who's been mizaka the shlichus, it's the shliach who's been mizaka himself. The shliach has pledged himself subservient as a shliach for the individual Ploni, even though Ploni is not here. So therefore, once he's acquired that shlichus, he can't renege on the deal. Even though Ploni doesn't know about the shlichus. It's a gift. Ploni has no idea that this is going on. But in him itself, the fact that I accept the shlichus without even telling him, that shlichus now is also a shlichus for Ploni, and I can't renege on that deal. Okay? So it says Gemara, what if you went and found that Pliny is dead, right? Yachzir l'mishalech. Then you give it back to the mishalech. Now this is assuming that he would, because then it never came through. Now bear in mind, this is actually a raya. That's not zachin l'adam shlo b'fanav. Because zachin l'adam shlo b'fanav, then what's the point at which the recipient acquires it? At the point where I gave it into your hand, right? And then if somebody came, if you went and found that guy dead, so then you would give it to who? To his heirs, right? To his heirs. But here it says, if you went and found that guy dead, you give it back to me, right? Why is that? It's because obviously what was he zoiche in? What was Pliny zoiche in? Only in your being a shaliach. He wasn't zoiche in the object itself. Makes a lot of sense, right? He acquired the rights in him that he's his shliach, but he didn't acquire the rights to the object. You don't like that?
Does it matter when the guy died?
What?
Was he dead already when the shaliach?
No, he was only dead on arrival. He wasn't dead when the shliach accepted. No, that's so chiddush, right? Even though he was alive at the time that I gave you the object to give to him, nevertheless, he's not zoiche in it then, because you're not a zoiche in this case, you're a shliach in this case. And but the only chiddush is that once you were a mizaki, your shlichus for Pliny, you can't renege on your shlichus until you carry it out. Is it good? Okay. He says it's good. There's nothing to argue about. So it says more again, you give it back to the mishalech. If the mishalech is dead, you give it to the Yorshim, to the heirs. Now here's the opposite case. I forgot that it's the next case here. If you use the other Lashon, which is that I made him the Zoiche, and I didn't make him, it's not a Shliach, he's actually a Zoiche, right? In this case, Zacha Monizel Ploni, Kaba Monizel Ploni, Kaba is also a language accepted on his behalf. Zacha Shtar Ploni, to acquire the shtar for so and so. Kabo shtar zematzon Ploni, same thing. Imrotzel hachzir lo yachzir. Here also, of course, that I can't renege on the deal. But here, holach mitzol shemeis. If you went and found the dead, yitin liyoshim, then you give to his heirs. to the heirs of the guy who died, because then what's the point of acquisition? When I gave it to you, that was the point of acquisition, right? However, if at the time that I appointed you agent, Pliny was already dead, we just didn't know about it, then Yachsil Mishlech goes back, obviously, to the person who was designated the agency, because there was nobody to be Zoicha. Shein Adam Zoicha B'Ksav L'Achar Misa. A person can't be Zoicha in a document after death. Now, it's the question, why does it say Ein Adam Zoicha B'Ksav L'Achar Misa? It just say Ein Adam Zoicha L'Achar Misa. Doesn't matter if it's a document or not. So the Mashbiach, it's a little bit difficult. Pnei Moshe has a difficulty. The Mashbiach wants to give a nice answer. I think it's a nice answer. He says, even though we hold the Gemara Bava Metzia, I don't know if it's in the Yerushalmi, but it is in the Bavli, Eida b'chasum of Zochim lo, that by documents, when you sign the document, it makes the document effective. But that's only if eventually the document will be delivered. Whereas it works retroactively from the time it was signed if it was delivered. But in this case, where before delivery the guy expired, the guy to whom it was intended died, then even though it was signed and sealed, Kedasu Kedin, it still doesn't take effect. When do we say it works retroactively in the time of the signature? Eida b'chasuma, the document, the witnesses when they sign it acquired, only when it is ultimately delivered properly. Bino, we're going to be finished in 5 minutes. So what?
I thought we started.
Oh, you thought we started 9:15? No, we started after Marv. Changed. Last night, Taka was Monday. I forgot to tell you that. Monday nights, I give a Kohela shiur in the middle. It's my fault. I apologize.
Okay.
But it's easy Gemara time. You'll be able to do it on your own. Monday nights, I do after Kohela shiur, but the rest of the week, during the summer, I do it after Marv is over here, which is it's about 8:40, 8:45. Okay. So. No, it's not that we started at 9:15 or finishing test. We started around 10 to 9 or so. Okay, so it says the Gemara. To Mishomar Monazel Puri. Well, in the meantime, we're on the bottom, page 16. Chesama base, about 8 lines to the bottom. Mishomar Monazel Puri. Somebody said this money gift to so and so. Tol Monazel Puri. Well, actually, didn't say give. I take that back. Mishomar just said Monazel Puri. This money to so and so. Tol Monazel Ploni, take this money to so and so, right? Yeh Monazel Ploni biyadcha, let this money be for so and so in your hand. Imrotzo lahachsir lo yachsir, you can't renege on the deal. V'hadein zocha lechavrei, and the other guy was zocha, and lo yachil lechazabar, he can't renege on the deal either. Meaning that all these cases are languages of zechia, right? This is well, I shouldn't say that. It's not clear. It seems that it's not language of Schia, but these are languages, like we said before, which cement the shlichus in place. Actually, I think it's a machlokas between the Korban Eid and Pnei Moshe, now that I'm looking at them. That according to Korban Eid, it seems like it's just that it cements the shlichus. According to the Pnei Moshe, it sounds that it means that it's actually Schia on his part. But that's the Pshat in the Gemara is like the Pnei Moshe, because it says Hadein Zachol Chavrei, he acquired it for his friends. So I would tend to say to Moshe that these are languages which work as Schia as well, not just as Shlichus. Okay? Now, Dilma. I haven't had that language Yerushalmi a long time. Dilma Yerushalmi to speak means a meiser, about to tell a story. Okay? Rabbi, I don't know what the derivation is, but that's what it means. They're about to tell a story. And the story is a complicated one, and I have to be honest with you, this story I prepared while they were davening Mincha here, because I had davened Mincha earlier. So I'm not going to be 100% clear on this story. But let's see if I can semi-wing it and semi-recollect it. Rabbi Dustoi, Rabbi Dustoi son of Rabbi Yanai, Rabbi Yossi ben Kippur, and Rabbi Yossi son of Kippur, Nachdun, they went down to Bavel, right, they temporarily, not to live there. Migbel Chavrei Tamon. They went to collect money for a friend of theirs. Okay, so they were sent to collect money. I assume that wasn't the only reason they were going to Bavel, but they went down to Bavel to go collect money for a friend of theirs. Okay? And they actually had the money. They got the money in hand. Okay? Bisamslein Lishan Bish. Then people started saying Lashon Hara about Rabbi Dustoi and Rabbi Yossi, and started saying, oh, they're not reliable. They're going to embezzle the money on their own. They're going to keep the money and not give it to the proper people. Asun boy mifkimine. So the people who were saying you might so wanted to take the money back. Amrun loan. So the Rabbi Dustoy, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Dustoy, Rabbi Yana, Rabbi Yosef Bekiba said, Kvar Salchina, we already acquired it on behalf of the person from Resecha. So it's too late for you to take it back. So Armin loan. So the people in Bavel, they said, okay, maybe we can't take it back, but anan boi tikimun tavos. We want you to preserve it very well. Meaning you have to take very special care with it. I guess they heard Lashon that they were careless people, right? So we're telling them you have to be not they're going to embezzle it, but you have to be very, very, very careful. Armelin, they said, no. Shomer Chinam anachnu. We're Shomer Chinam. We are going to keep it like a Shomer Chinam. A Shomer Chinam is only chayav on Shia, not on Gnev and Aveda. So obviously the conversation was they wanted, I guess the people in Bavel either want to pay them to make them Shomrei Sachar, which are Chayav also Gnev and Aveda, or they wanted them to upgrade their Shlichus voluntarily to a level of Shomrei Sachar. And they refused. They said, no, we're not going to. So Asul Gabi Rabbi Stoy Barabiana. So the people in Bavel, they decided they're going to divide them up and attack them separately. So they came to Rabbi Stoy Barabiana first. And they were very threatening to him. So the money he was holding on to, Amri Lohon, he said to the people, the Babylonians, it should be Hanhu or Hino, I don't know exactly what it is, here it is. Okay, he gave back the money. Hanu Kulu, here's all the money. Nas bin Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur, then they took Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur, and Rabbi Yosef ben Kippur was more a stout fellow, he didn't give it back right away. So what did they do to him? Patroi, they beat him up. And Vavku Minei, they got the money back from him too. So now the two Shlichim, the two agents, are going back to Eretz Yisrael empty-handed, right? When they came back to Eretz Yisrael, Asa, the guy who sent them, came, L'gabi Abu, he went to Rabbi Dustoy's father, to Rabbi Yoina. Amalei says, Leisad Chami, my Avilu Brach, do you see what your son did for me? In other words, I sent your son to go collect my money in Bavel. And he gave it back out of hand. And when they came to ask him back, he gave it back. And that's not right. He was zoicha for me. He should have kept it at that point. Right? They might not have trusted him, but I trusted him. He should have kept it. Now I'm out the money. What? Should have put up a fight at least. Rabbi Dustoy didn't even put up a fight. Right? Okay, but they didn't. Right? You should have kept it. That's what he's going to answer. So Amarlei, I guess it's not sure clear to me who exactly is responding this way. I guess what? No, I don't. What?
You're talking to him now. So you actually wouldn't they have taken away from you if I would have?
I guess that's what I mean. You asked with me, were they on a level with me? Lava mafkine klum. They wouldn't have gotten klum. They wouldn't have taken anything back from me, but they threatened us. Amarlei, so he said, Ma'av Diskain. Rabbi Yana asked Rabbi Dustoy, what did they do? Right? In other words, what did you see what made you afraid that you did actually give it back? So Rabbi Dustoy said, Risio saw, my son saw, based in that the based in there shehain, it should be shehain amma b'kovein amma. They were very tall and their hats were very tall. They're wearing obviously stovepipe hats. Ger Chasidim, right? There's a language actually in the Bavli too. I don't remember, it's somewhere around here. I don't remember exactly where. Somebody here on the page quotes where it's in the Bavli. I don't remember which one does.
Hey, this was with Dostai, right? This was Dostai, right?
Rabbi Stoy is telling him what he saw in Bavel. He said that they were very tall, their hats were very tall, and they were so tall that, actually the way the Korban A explains it, they spoke with such a thick voice that it's as if it's kilu it sounded like their voice coming from their stomach, not from their mouth. So, what? Brooklyn. Okay, so So they were very violent people. Besides that, I saw Yossi, my brother, bound, and I saw the whip going up and down on him. And I said, Shema Dustoi Achas Yesh La'abo Achi Yesh La'abo. Does my father have another son, Rabbi Dustoi? In other words, am I expendable? So therefore, what I did is I gave the money back. Okay, so it says more. Amar Rabbi Chagar Rabbi Chayes said, Hadar the Tamar. They were justified in doing that. Behu the lo yochel mekamat tavus if they can't withstand it properly. Bramu yochel mekakocha mekamat tavus. If you were able to withstand it properly, that we take the money actually from the shluchim, even though they didn't bring it back. We actually sue them and say they didn't do the shuls properly, and we take it and take it from them and give it to the proper owner. So here it's an oinus. In an oinus, we see you're allowed to cancel your shlichus. But if it's anything less than a proper onus, then you better keep your shlichus going. Okay, we'll stop here for today. I know, but the rest of the parak, there's a lot. The gersolos are messed up in the rest of the parak, so we'll leave that for tomorrow.